Guys, I know that this news might not be the most significant news that I've ever broke. Well, not really, I'm not breaking the news. Or that I've ever reacted to or discussed on this channel. But I feel like it deserves to be talked about because both the person that I'm about to talk about and their father are... their father especially is one of my favorite players in the NFL of all time. So you guys already know who I'm talking about because of the thumbnail. But basically what I'm talking about is the Washington football team yesterday announced that they have cut undrafted tight end Thaddeus Moss. And obviously, if you guys do not know already, Thaddeus Moss is the son of legendary Hall of Fame wide receiver Randy Moss, one of my favorite players of all time. And so I thought that this was pretty significant, even though I know that it doesn't seem that significant because it's an undrafted tight end that didn't play at all last season because of injury. And he wasn't really that great to begin with. So, I mean, it's really small in the grand scheme of things, but I thought it was pretty significant because I'm a fan of Randy Moss. I'm a fan of his son. I thought his son was a very solid tight end in college. He was on that Joe Burrow national championship team at LSU. And I thought that he was I thought that he was a very solid tight end. I didn't think he would ever be anything in the league. I didn't think he would ever be like a top 10 tight end in the league. I knew that going into his career. But I thought he could be like a serviceable backup tight end on a championship team or on a solid team or maybe a starter on a bad football team like the football team. But it sucks that he had that injury that he never really played this past season. So they cut ties with him. I think he'll get picked up maybe on the practice squad for a team this season just because his dad is Randy Moss, and I think that teams will be willing to give him a second chance and a third chance and stuff because he does have that talent. Like he was good enough to start on a national championship winning team in LSU. He was good enough to make it to the NFL. He was on an NFL roster. Just because he was injured doesn't mean that he wouldn't have played if he wasn't injured. So he's got some sort of talent there. Plus, his dad is effing Randy Moss. So, I mean, there's something there that you can build. And yes, I know that just because your dad or your parent is a prominent athlete doesn't always mean that you're going to be the same type of athlete. But, I mean, more than likely, you are going to have some sort of athletic ability if your parents are super athletic. Like, just take a look at Del Curry and then look at his sons. They're two of the best. Well, Seth, probably not as much of the best as Steph is, but still, you get my point. And look at, what's his name? Whatever, I forget what Klay Thompson's dad is. Look at Klay Thompson and Trace Thompson on, I think he plays for the Twins in the MLB. But there are some cases of sons really playing very well in their respective sport that their father played. There are some exceptions, and that got me thinking, this Thaddeus Moss thing got me thinking about one in particular that I really, really thought was going to change. Now, I know a lot of you might not know who Chris Carter is. You may know who Chris Carter is. He's the come on man guy. Like, come on, man. He's that guy. You know who I'm talking about? Played wide receiver for the Vikings, the Eagles. You know he played with Randy Moss back in the day. But I know him because he played in the NFL. But I also know him because he went to Ohio State. And he had a son. I think his name was... what was his son's name? Was it Devon? Devon? It was something similar to that. I cannot exactly remember what his name was, but coming out of college, he was supposed to be a very solid wide receiver. He played wide receiver just like his dad. He was supposed to be a very solid wide receiver, but he never really panned out. I don't even think he played that much in the league, to be honest. And now I think he's playing in Canada. I think he's up in Canada playing in their league. So I don't think he's one of the stories that sticks out to me that never really had the same kind of career that Chris Carter had, or that his dad had. And so this Thaddeus Moss thing kind of makes me think that same kind of line is going to be drawn there. Like, Randy Moss, the dad, had such a great Hall of Fame level career. 20 years later, the son tries to do it again. The son just doesn't have the same skill set. Plus, he's a tight end. His dad was a wide receiver. It's similar skill sets because you're excuse me, you're doing the same type of thing, but it's different for a wide receiver and a tight end because the tight end's also got to do a lot more blocking than the wide receiver. The wide receiver still has to block a little bit, but the tight end's doing a lot more blocking, a lot more in the trenches kind of stuff. Plus, he's doing the catching, he's doing the route running, he's doing all that kind of stuff. And I don't think that Thaddeus Moss really was. I said this earlier. I thought Thaddeus Moss was a very solid player on a winning team in LSU. Transfer that over to the NFL, and it never really panned out, whether that be because he was injured for the whole season or whether it just be because he didn't have that full amount of talent that his father had. So it just kind of sucks that he got cut after 1 year and really not getting a chance because he was injured for the entire season. So I hope he does catch on somewhere because I'm a fan of him. I honestly am a fan of Thaddeus Moss. I thought he was going to be at least a serviceable tight end in the NFL, and hopefully he gets picked up and given a second chance. I think he will, not just because his dad's name is Randy Moss. I think that teams will be willing to give him a second, maybe even a third chance because he could show that he's got some sort of ability. Plus, he never got to show it with having that injury. So I know that this isn't really like the biggest story to talk about, but until we get closer to the NFL draft, there's probably going to be more stories like this because there's not really a lot of stuff major going on right now in the NFL. So I just wanted to bring it up because mostly I'm a huge fan of Randy Moss. So any excuse I get to talk about Randy Moss or his family or anything like that, I really like because I just like Randy Moss. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comments if you think that Thaddeus Moss will get a second chance with another team, if he'll catch on with another team, or if he'll just flame out and be in Canada or just not be playing football anymore. So let me know down below in the comments what you guys think. Smash that like button, hit the notification bell, and the subscription button. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya!